So, have you ever just stood outside, stared out at the horizon, and just sort of sensed that there's something more out there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty universal feeling.
Right. And humans have been doing this exact thing since literally the dawn of our species. But the crazy part is, what we actually think we're seeing when we look out there, it has changed radically over time.
Dramatically, like from the ground up.
Yeah. I mean, for about 95% of human history, the idea of a singular, invisible creator like an all-powerful force living entirely outside the physical universe, it would have sounded completely ridiculous to our ancestors.
I wouldn't have even grasped the concept.
Exactly. If you went back, 20,000 years and tried to explain that to a hunter-gatherer, they wouldn't just disagree. They'd be like, what are you even talking about?
Right. Because to them, looking for the divine outside the universe would be, it'd be like a fish trying to look for water outside the ocean. It just didn't compute at all.
Which brings us to our mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring this really fascinating, freshly published article. It just came out on April 19th, 2026.
Yeah, by Mark Wells.
Right, on the Knowledge is King blog. It's titled The Evolution of the Infinite, How Humanity Reimagined the Divine. And his whole mission here is to trace how our concept of the divine didn't just, drop out of the sky fully formed. It evolved right alongside our human social structures. From the literal dirt under our ancestors' feet all the way to a force beyond the stars. So, okay, let's unpack this.
And, keep in mind as we go through this, we aren't just looking at, a dry history of theology here.
Right.
This source material is really a mirror. It's reflecting human psychology and our growing self-awareness. When you look at how a society constructs its understanding of the divine, you're essentially seeing how they construct their entire understanding of reality.
That makes total sense. So to get our baseline, we really have to start at the absolute beginning of human consciousness.
Before we build anything permanent.
Yeah, exactly. Before cities, before farming, the hunter-gatherer worldview. How did they view the world? Because the author points out that the divine wasn't up there in the clouds. It was here.
It was intensely hyperlocal.
Yeah. Everything was alive with intentionality. Like a river wasn't just water following gravity. It had a temperament.
Oh, definitely. A river could be generous or it could be furious and flood your camp.
And a mountain was like a protective ancestor, a silent witness. The divine was basically fragmented into a trillion pieces. The spirit of a bear, a thunderstorm, an ancient oak tree.
Which is animism, fundamentally.
Right, animism. And reading this, I kept thinking of it like early humans lived in this chaotic, hyper-local neighborhood association.
The neighborhood association, I like that.
Right, because it was this sort of democratic ecosystem of spirits. You didn't wake up and petition some distant king. You had to negotiate with the local forces just to survive the day.
You appease the river before crossing it.
Exactly. Yeah. But I have to ask, and this was a big question I had while reading, since they negotiated directly with nature on this granular level, does the author suggest they even had a concept of the supernatural?
Oh, that's the thing. What's fascinating here is that there is absolutely no separation.
None at all.
None. The supernatural literally didn't exist for them because everything was natural. The rock didn't just contain a spirit, the rock was the spirit.
Wow.
Yeah, there was no boundary. And this reflects a humanity that was deeply tethered to and, frankly, terrified of its immediate physical environment. They were just trying to carve out a tiny illusion of control.
So you're basically putting a face on the chaos so you can talk to it.
Exactly. You can negotiate with a personality. You can't negotiate with random chance.
Right. But that fragmented neighborhood association ecosystem, it kind of stops working when we fundamentally change how we live.
The agricultural revolution.
Yes. We stop roaming. We build walls. We plant crops. We get the first massive civilizations like Sumer, Egypt, the Indus Valley. And the author argues that as our society scaled up, our concept of the divine had to scale up too.
It had to. Because you can't unify a city of thousands of people around, a single ancient oak tree.
Yeah, the logistics just don't work.
The heavens grew hierarchical. They had to mirror human organization.
And this is the part I found hilarious in the article. He calls the gods of this era regional managers.
It's a great analogy.
It really is. The fragmented spirits coalesced, and suddenly you have specific jurisdictions. A god of grain, a god of war, a goddess of love. And they had these very human-like personalities and flaws.
Jealousy, rage, nepotism, all of it.
But here's my pushback, or at least where my modern brain got stuck. When we think of regional managers, I think of Marduk handling Babylon and Poseidon managing the agency. Wait, if you lived in Babylon and worshipped Marduk, did you think the people sailing the Aegean were worshipping a fake god in Poseidon? Because today, most religions are exclusive, right? You think the other guy's god is fake.
Yeah, that is a huge modern assumption, and the text explicitly corrects this. No, during this phase, people did not deny that other gods existed.
They didn't.
Not at all. It wasn't about universal exclusivity. It was entirely about local sovereignty.
Local sovereignty. Okay, break that down.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, humanity had just invented the concepts of territorial ownership, right? Borders, middle management.
Yeah, property lines, basically.
Exactly. So they projected those brand new inventions directly onto the heavens. A Babylonian merchant sailing the Aegean would absolutely make an offering to Poseidon.
Because he's in Poseidon's territory.
Right. But back home in Babylon, Poseidon had zero jurisdiction. Marduk held the literal deed to that piece of land.
Okay, that makes so much sense. It really is just, I don't report to the manager of the next town over.
Exactly. You don't pay your taxes to him.
So the regional manager system works until it doesn't.
Until we get empires.
Right, because eventually humans start conquering each other. Trade routes expand. And the human mind starts searching for an ultimate origin, a unifying theory. And this brings us to what the article calls the most radical shift in human thought.
The Great Leap.
Yes, the leap from immanence, meaning the divine is physically in the world, to transcendence, where the divine is completely outside of it.
This is a huge pivot.
Massive.
Yeah.
We see the birth of the uncreated creator, the moment of I am that I am. All that fragmentation just collapses into a singular one.
And defined entirely by what it's not.
Yes. That blew my mind. It's not physical. It's not limited by time. It's not subject to the laws of physics.
It ceases to be a thing among other things in the universe.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. The author uses this powerful analogy. If the universe is a painting.
Oh, I love this part.
It's so good.
Yeah.
If the universe is a painting, the divine is now the artist, entirely outside the canvas, completely unaffected by the brushstrokes or the paint.
Right. The creator is finally separated from the creation.
But wait, this brings up a huge operational question for me. If you remove the divine entirely from the physical world, doesn't that change humanity's day-to-day behavior?
How do you mean?
Well, doesn't it make the divine kind of less relevant? If God isn't in the river anymore or in the thunderstorm, doesn't the physical world just lose its sacredness?
You're heading on a really counterintuitive conclusion from the source. This raises an important question about human progress. You'd think moving the divine out of nature makes it irrelevant, but it actually created the space for early science and logic to flourish.
Wait, really? How does removing the divine create science?
Think back to the animist. If you genuinely believe a tree has a conscious spirit, you don't cut it down to study its rings, right?
Right, because you're murdering a tree spirit.
Exactly. If a thunderstorm is an angry god, you don't study it. You hide and offer a sacrifice. You are paralyzed by the fear of offending your environment.
Because dissecting nature would literally be dissecting the divine. That's a huge taboo.
But once the divine was separated from nature, once it became the artist outside the canvas was demystified.
Oh, wow.
Nature just became an object, something created by a rational mind that could be studied and measured without fear.
So a thunderstorm just becomes weather.
It's just weather, atmospheric pressure, and static electricity.
And then you can measure it and eventually invent a lightning rod.
Yeah.
That is an incredible intellectual untethering.
It truly changed the trajectory of our entire species.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? We've basically tracked human self-awareness from its infancy, from fearing our immediate local environment with animism,
to organizing our territory with regional deities.
right? And finally to seeking a universal truth that applies everywhere, to everyone, the transcendent one.
And regardless of whether you view this evolution as us discovering a higher truth or just as a masterpiece of human imagination, it's fundamentally the same story.
Which is what?
Humanity trying to locate its place in an infinite cosmos. We upgrade our map of reality as our perception expands.
Which leaves us with a really crazy final thought to mull over. The article makes it clear that separating the creator from the canvas of nature is what allowed us to boldly study science and physics, right?
Yeah, without fear.
But look at where we are today. With quantum physics, deep cosmology, string theory, we're actually beginning to uncover the absolute limits of time, space, and reality.
We're finding the very edges of that canvas.
Exactly. And the edges are weird. It's all probability waves and quantum entanglement. So, if our concept of the divine has always evolved to match our understanding of reality,
Are we about to shift again?
that's the question. Are we rapidly approaching an era where humanity will be forced to reimagine the infinite all over again? What will our next evolutionary leap in understanding the divine look like when we finally stare past the edge of the universe?
It's a wild thing to consider.
Something to think about the next time you find yourself staring out at the horizon.